and a very warm welcome to Front Page, only on the AIM Network, India's definitive media organization and voice on everything AI and technology. Truly a pleasure to have you all with us. But before we get into the headlines and the front page stories, here is something which is extremely joyous, which shall take place in October of this year at KTPO, Bengaluru, which is Cypher. Yes, India's biggest AI Summit and Expo, AIM's marquee event in its 10th edition, which makes it bigger than ever. So if you're very serious about your AI and tech, which I know you are, then I'm pretty sure you will be at Cypher 2026. And now, here are the headlines. An international team, including IIT Bhubaneswar scientists, have achieved the world's largest synchronized network of over 100,000 spintronic oscillators, synchronizing in just 45 nanoseconds. This will offer a brain-inspired, energy-efficient computing breakthrough, which is published in Nature Nanotechnology. SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son declared AI will require $5 trillion in annual investment by 2040, dismissing bubble concerns as absurd, while predicting a future with 100 trillion AI agents and an agent-centric world replacing human dominance. Space tech startup Dhruva Space has secured a 60 crore rupees investment as the maiden recipient of the government-backed 1,005 crore rupees Antariksh Venture Capital Fund, accelerating India's commercial aerospace manufacturing sprint. Apple filed an explosive 41-page lawsuit against OpenAI, alleging a systemic company-wide campaign of corporate espionage and trade secret theft designed to jumpstart Altman's, consumer hardware division. Skillmine founder and CEO Anant Agrawal will join me exclusively on Front Page today to discuss how India can shift from the world's tech back office to a product nation, driving AI enterprise production and intellectually property ownership. For over 50 years, computing has run on one idea: silicon transistors moving electrical charge. Faster, smaller, more of them. Today, an Indian scientist has helped prove there's another way entirely. An international team, including a scientist from IIT Bhubaneswar, has published a landmark paper in Nature Nanotechnology. The achievement? The world's largest synchronized network of nanoscale spintronic oscillators, over 100,000 of them, essentially establishing that these are devices working in perfect coordination and are not in an experimental stage. The team building this demonstrated that these oscillators don't run on an electrical charge. They exploit something different altogether, which is the spin of the electron itself. And the number and fact which stunned researchers was that the full network synchronized into a single coherent state in just, wait for it, 45 nanoseconds. That is 45 billionths of a second. No external control mechanism forcing them into sync. Instead, they found coordination on their own. Now, the research was a joint effort between the University of Gothenburg in Sweden, Tohoku University in Japan, and IIT Bhubaneswar in India. Now, for the part that actually takes this development beyond just being a physics curiosity. Today's AI models, as we know, are becoming extremely expensive to run. Massive GPU clusters, gigawatts of electricity, billions of dollars in infrastructure. Now, the largest AI data centers now consume power comparable to entire cities. Spintronic oscillators offer a very different path because, they synchronize naturally. They can perform certain computations in parallel, using dramatically less energy than conventional chips. Applications which can be provided with solutions include neural network acceleration, pattern recognition, and edge AI. Exactly the workloads straining today's power grids. Now, the human brain, that's interesting. The human brain performs extraordinary computation on roughly 20 watts of power. Now, that is most of human brains. Modern supercomputers need megawatts to do far less. Now, to fill that very gap is what's driving neuromorphic computing, which I believe puts things in perspective. Basically, hardware that mimics how neurons actually synchronize inside of the human brain. Now, this research gives scientists very real experimental proof that this kind of synchronization works even at a massive scale. 100,000 devices acting as one. This matters beyond the lab because global computing is approaching a roadblock. Transistors are hitting atomic limits. Energy and heat are becoming the real constraint, not so much the raw processing power. Countries will actually, the ones that own the intellectual property behind whatever comes next, won't honestly just be manufacturing chips. They'll design the architecture, the scaffolding, the rest of the world will run on. Now, India's semiconductor mission has so far focused on fabrication, packaging, and testing. Research like this places an Indian institution inside the design conversation itself. But of course, we need to fairly be clear about where this actually stands as on date. This is, as of now, at a laboratory stage science level. Commercial deployment would require years of further work. Then, of course, there is manufacturing at scale, integration with existing chip fabrication, and building the software to actually use it. So the day is still quite far off in the distance when we could see a spintronic chip in a laptop. But the foundational physics just got a very serious, published, peer-reviewed proof point. And here is now the front page take. Now, what makes this great is that India is an integral part of computing's next chapter, celebrating the fact that India is working tirelessly to not just manufacture yesterday's chips faster, but now in helping invent tomorrow's. But the question I have for all of you is, can this lab breakthrough survive the long road from nature nanotechnology to an actual chip on a shelf? Please do let us know what are your thoughts in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the IIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. Now, every time someone calls AI a bubble, Masayoshi Son hears it as a compliment in disguise. Now, today, at SoftBank's own stage in Tokyo, he not only dismissed the bubble talk, but went further in putting a number on the next 15 years of AI spending. A number big enough to make anyone's head spin. SoftBank Group CEO Masayoshi Son said AI development will require $5 trillion in investment every single year by 2040. That's approximately 800 trillion yen annually. Now, in his own words, and I quote, every year, $5 trillion or 800 trillion yen, you might think that's a lie, but I am confident that's what it will cost, end quote. And then, of course, on the bubble question, he didn't hedge at all. And this is what he said. Asking if AI is a bubble is absurd. I don't think people who ask that question know what AI is all about, end quote. Now, here's how actually Son justifies a figure that large. His reasoning is this. By 2040, AI revenue could make up 20% of global GDP. Now, if that happens, spending $5 trillion a year becomes, in his words, a rounding error. Now, notably, Son didn't explain how he arrived at either number, the $5 trillion figure, or for that matter, the 20% of GDP estimate. Well, this is a bet on scale, stated with total conviction, but without the underlying math on display. And spending isn't honestly the only massive number Son threw out today. He also predicted AI data centers will need 3 terawatts of power generation by 2040. That's 1.8 times all of the world's current electricity consumption, dedicated entirely to just running AI. Now, his roadmap for getting there: gas power first, then eventually nuclear fusion as the primary energy source. He even addressed Elon Musk's space-based solar power idea directly. And he said this, and I quote, "Will we use solar power in space as Elon Musk says? Maybe. We will use both. But if you ask me, fusion on Earth will be the cheaper, cleaner, energy source, end quote. But the boldest claim came when Son described 2040 itself. He painted a picture of 100 trillion AI agents making their own decisions, taking action, and communicating with each other. His words again. We will go from a human-centric world to an agent-centric world. The age when humans are the highest life form on earth will end. For better or for worse, it will happen and it can't be stopped. End quote. Wow. That's, I feel, no longer an investment thesis. That's more like a civilizational prediction. And now, of course, Son's track record is exactly why people are listening. He made his name on early bets on Alibaba and brought the iPhone to Japan. But he's also backed WeWork, which went bankrupt. And today, his highest conviction wager is OpenAI. Now, SoftBank's cumulative investment there is set to cross $60 billion before the year ends. Big wins, big misses. But right now, an enormous bet, which is still on the table. Here, of course, is the front page take. Now, Masayoshi Son is doing what he's always done, which is betting everything on a future most people can't yet seem to fathom or picture. Now, whether it's visionary or reckless depends entirely on whether that $5 trillion actually shows up and actually pays off. The question I have for all of you, is Son's $5 trillion forecast a genuine roadmap for AI's future, or actually the boldest bubble denial the industry has heard of as yet? And are we going to get replaced as the highest form of life? That one's a troubling one. Anyway, please do let us know what are your thoughts in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the IIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. India's private space race has received its first massive injection of institutional rocket fuel. Now, for a sizable amount of time, the country's space tech pioneers have had to rely almost entirely on foreign venture capital or highly fragmented local seed rounds to get their hardware off the ground. The era of waiting on private equity to clear the launch pad is now officially over. But before we go further, you, of course, have the opportunity to use this moment as a launch pad to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for your support. Now, at the 10th In Space Industry Connect event in Ahmedabad, a monumental financial deployment was officially triggered. Hyderabad-based full-stack space engineering company Dhruva Space has become the absolute first recipient of funding from the Antariksh Venture Capital Fund, locking down a critical 60 crore rupees investment. Now, this marks the long-awaited operational opening of India's dedicated sovereign space technology fund. And of course, it is completely reshaping the domestic aerospace valuation metrics. Now, the defining objective of this capital injection is accelerating heavy physical infrastructure and domestic mission execution. Now, to put that into perspective, the 1,005 crore rupees Antariksh Fund was initially approved way back in 2024. However, due to complex regulatory hurdles, compliance mechanisms, and the early stage maturity of the country's space tech framework, the active deployment phase was delayed until the start of this fiscal year. But I believe now the wait is over. Managing Director and CEO of Small Industries Development Bank of India Venture Capital, Arup Kumar, stated that this opening investment validates full stack integration. The government is explicitly backing teams that can manage innovation, heavy manufacturing, mission execution, and global commercial deployment completely under one roof. Dhruva Space co-founder Chaitanya Dora Surapureddy emphasized that the capital will allow the firm to scale manufacturing lines and rapidly execute its massive backlog. Now, Dhruva Space is, by the way, currently sitting on a jaw-dropping order book exceeding 500 crore rupees. Their pipeline spans integrated satellite platforms, custom space infrastructure, comprehensive mission logistics, and critical national technology programs. Now, this sovereign backing completely alters Dhruva Space's operational runway, allowing them to scale past the typical constraints of deep tech development. The 60 crore rupees federal injection officially brings Dhruva Space's ongoing pre-Series B funding round to a massive total of 275 crore rupees. Now, the financial engineering behind this round is quite incredibly balanced, comprising 150 crore rupees in pure equity and 125 crore rupees in debt financing. Now, this clean structure provides the firm with massive cash liquidity without forcing excessive founder dilution, right as they push into international markets. Now, the Antariksh Fund is built specifically to supply patient institutional capital across all stages of aerospace growth. It provides the long gestation capital that traditional retail venture funds refuse to touch, stabilizing, consequently, India's hardware ambitions. And here, of course, is the front page take. Now, the Antariksh Fund's maiden investment is a strategic masterstroke for India's geopolitical positioning. Now, why do I say that? That is because by infusing high growth capital into an enterprise with a 500 crore rupees order book, the government is ensuring that private space infrastructure transitions from research labs to assembly line commercial deployment. But the question is this: can India's newly operational sovereign fund successfully scale private manufacturing quickly enough to challenge global giants like SpaceX, or will long space technology gestation periods slow down initial capital returns? Please do let us know what are your thoughts in the comments below. According to me, I really think we need this patient capital. But that's my thought. What are yours? Well, this is Front Page by the IIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. Now, the most high-profile corporate partnership in the AI world has exploded into an absolute war. And the center of this is an all-out allegation of systematic, calculated corporate espionage right in the middle of Silicon Valley. Now, of course, if stories like these keep you excited and, of course, keep you ahead of the curve, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. We thank you so much for your support. Now, on Friday, the 10th of July, 2026, Apple filed a monumental 41-page federal complaint against OpenAI in San Jose, California. The core accusation of it: Apple claims the ChatGPT creator orchestrated a ruthless company-wide campaign to steal its highly proprietary product designs, manufacturing secrets, and confidential supply chain blueprints. The stakes here are astronomical. OpenAI is currently sitting on a staggering $852 billion private valuation. But this legal grenade, if you will, threatens to completely derail their highly anticipated plans for a blockbuster initial public offering. The defining objective of this litigation is freezing OpenAI's consumer device pipeline before it can compete with the iPhone, which clearly actually marks a staggering breakdown in relations. Now, just 2 years ago, let me jog your memory, these two giants were proudly shaking hands to embed ChatGPT directly into Apple Intelligence and Siri. But behind the closed doors, the story is a lot different. Tensions boiled over earlier this year when OpenAI reportedly explored its own legal threats, alleging Apple breached terms by failing to adequately promote their chatbot integration. Now, Apple is demanding unspecified financial damages and an ironclad injunction to completely block OpenAI from utilizing any of its technology. Apple's legal team is systematically targeting OpenAI's specialized hardware infrastructure. The named corporate defendants include the OpenAI Foundation, OpenAI Group, and IO Products, which is the elite hardware studio co-founded by former Apple design icon Johnny Ive. OpenAI acquired this for a whopping $6.5 billion in 2025. Now, the primary orchestrator named in the suit is Tang Yo Tan, OpenAI's current chief hardware officer. Tan has been respected as an absolute titan of product engineering. He spent 24 years at Apple, operating at the highest levels as the vice president of product design for both the iPhone and the Apple Watch. Now, this was before leaving to build OpenAI's hardware arm. Now, the complaint also names Chang Liu, a former senior system electrical engineer at Apple. Now, Apple claims this goes far beyond standard Silicon Valley poaching, even though they note that over 400 former Apple employees have been systematically sucked into OpenAI's workforce. Now, Apple asserts that OpenAI normalizes a culture of data theft, intentionally weaponizing these ex-employees to strip Apple of its hard-earned hardware innovations to shortcut their own manufacturing timelines. And the specific details outlined in the 41-page filing read actually like the script of a thriller. First, Apple alleges that Chief Hardware Officer Tang Yu Tan ran highly unorthodox show and tell job interviews. While interviewing prospective candidates who still worked at Apple, Tan allegedly used top secret internal Apple code names to extract roadmap details. Now, more shockingly, the suit claims Tan instructed interviewing Apple engineers to physically sneak components, including proprietary circuit boards, specialized batteries, and prototype parts. Now, this was done straight out of Apple HQ to show off during their interviews. Second, the electronic evidence against engineer Chang Liu is incredibly damaging. Apple alleges Liu refused to return his company-issued MacBook upon resigning. He then allegedly exploited a rare, unpatched authentication vulnerability to breach Apple's internal network storage after his termination. What did he do? He downloaded dozens of highly confidential hardware schematics. Now, in a text message which has been captured in the filings, Liu has allegedly laughed to another employee, and I quote, this was the text, "LOL, I found out I can access the network storage. So funny," end quote. Now, furthermore, the suit alleges OpenAI targeted Apple's supply chain. In one bizarre incident, OpenAI staff allegedly manipulated a key Apple manufacturing partner into executing a highly guarded, and I quote again, secret metal finishing technique, thereby deceiving the supplier into believing Apple had explicitly authorized OpenAI to use the custom process. Wow. Here, of course, is the front page take. Now, Apple is establishing that OpenAI's hardware dreams are built on completely stolen architecture. Now, by calling their hardware operation rotten to its core, Apple is preparing the legal groundwork to demand a sweeping injunction that could completely kill Sam Altman's dream of launching a physical AI consumer device. Apple has warned OpenAI about this back in February, and after being completely ignored, they have pulled the absolute nuclear trigger. The question here I would like to ask all of you watching is this: can OpenAI's massive $852 billion valuation survive the legal discovery phase if their internal records confirm they knowingly utilize stolen Apple schematics? Or, for that matter, will this halt their IPO momentum for a longer run? And of course, I have another one for you. Do you feel that this could also go down the criminal investigation road? Please do let us know what are your thoughts in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AI Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM.
AI prototypes are everywhere, but very few professionals know how to deploy AI where businesses actually operate. Introducing the Certified Forward Deployed AI Specialist by Adasi, a certification designed for the new generation of AI professionals who can bridge technology, deployment, operations, and business execution in real-world enterprise environments. Because modern AI success is no longer just building models. It's about making AI work inside production systems, customer workflows, and enterprise operations. The future belongs to engineers who can take AI from demo to deployment. This certification is ideal for AI engineers, solutions architects, technical consultants, Gen AI practitioners, developers who want to move beyond experimentation and deploy AI systems that create measurable business impact. The future of AI belongs to professionals who can take intelligence from concept to real-world execution.
There are a lot of models available on Amazon. You can use any model. For this particular workshop, I'll go with Llama 3. It's the simplest, easiest, and in terms of cost, no problem. But yes, if you are an organization, you want to go and work, you can use Anthropic's Claude model. You can use any of these models. So this is the 2ML file. And what you need, all of you, is you can see there is a Docker file also created. There is a Py project created. There is requirement, and this is the environment. So just this is the app where you have a Py cache. So this is your cache. Init.py will not have anything, that is for initialization. This is your actual agent script. And then here you have got a README, which you can use automatically running in Docker, and these things come automatically. You can click on data store. You can click on the tool name. So this is tool 1. It's a data store. You can give the description. Now I'm going with the lowest score in terms of grounding. So we have low confidence that the response is grounded.
AI prototypes are everywhere, but very few professionals know how to deploy AI where businesses actually operate. Introducing the Certified Forward Deployed AI Specialist by Adasi, a certification designed for the new generation of AI professionals who can bridge technology, deployment, operations, and business execution in real-world enterprise environments. Because modern AI success is no longer just building models. It's about making AI work inside production systems, customer workflows, and enterprise operations. The future belongs to engineers who can take AI from demo to deployment. This certification is ideal for AI engineers, solutions architects, technical consultants, Gen AI practitioners, developers who want to move beyond experimentation and deploy AI systems that create measurable business impact. The future of AI belongs to professionals who can take intelligence from concept to real-world execution.
There are a lot of models available on Amazon. You can use any model. For this particular workshop, I'll go with Llama 3. It's the simplest, easiest, and in terms of cost, no problem. But yes, if you are an organization, you want to go and work, you can use Anthropic's Claude model. You can use any of these models. So this is the 2ML file. And what you need, all of you, is you can see there is a Docker file also created. There is a Py project created. There is requirement, and this is the environment. So this is the app where you have a Py cache. So this is your cache. Init.py will not have anything, that is for initialization. This is your actual agent script. And then here you have got a README, which you can use automatically running in Docker, and these things come automatically.
You can click on data store. You can click on the tool name. So this is tool 1. It's a data store. You can give the description. Now I'm going with the lowest score in terms of grounding. So we have low confidence that the response is grounded.
India has produced extraordinary technology talent for 30 years. Almost none of the platforms that talent built are owned by India, unfortunately. Now, the engineers who wrote the code that runs global banks, global retailers, and global supply chains did honestly so brilliantly, and the IP, unfortunately, belongs to their clients. Wipro, Infosys, and TCS combined employ over 1.3 million engineers. Now, the value those engineers create accrues in San Francisco, London, and Zurich. Anant Agrawal has got 28 years of fabulous experience. He has worked with the best of the best. Capgemini, Tesco's Global Infrastructure and Operations, MSCI, as head of India and Executive Director of Global Technology Services. Now, this is all before he decided to build very differently. Skillmine Technology Consulting has 550 people and $43.7 million in annual revenue. Its thesis is quite specific. The next decade of Indian technology will be won by companies that own what they build. Anant Agrawal is founder, Managing Director and CEO of Skillmine Technology Consulting, who is leading and championing this cause and is joining me exclusively on Front Page for this very discussion and a lot more. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, Anant?
Thank you so much. All good, and thank you for having me here.
Pleasure to have you with us. Unfortunately, just give me a second. I'll request my producer. I believe there is I can't hear you. Yeah, now I can. Now I can. All right. So once again, let's do this again. Wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here. I am delighted to be getting into this conversation. Just a small correction.
Sorry, sir.
We're close to 1,800 people. Not
Wonderful.
500.
That's a good. That's a good correction. I'm so glad that I got that wrong. That figure didn't go down. That's a good thing. All right. So I'd like to start here. Capgemini, Tesco Global Infrastructure. Now, 28 years building technology for global companies before you decided to start up Skillmine. Now, 28 years, Anant, what have they taught you about what India was probably getting right at some given point in time, and what has made you decide that the model that they were probably getting right or not so right needed a change?
There are quite a bunch of things which I want to mention here. My 20 years, I have overall roughly 34, 35 years of IT career now. The first 20 years was primarily doing jobs with the likes of Gemini Consulting, Tesco's, MSCI's, and various other companies. India was pretty nascent in those stages. I was the second or fourth batch within the computer science graduates in India.
Wow.
There were hardly any computers also in our college lab. We had to fight for a slot for the lab. So when there are no computers, imagine every kid roaming with a laptop in India today. When we grew up in colleges, we had only 1 hour slot, 2 hours every 3 weeks to do something.
Wow.
That's the rationing which we used to grow up under. So obviously the talent was, India, the race of Aryans is seekers, and we are always challengers and thinkers and want to work hard.
Sure.
Those qualities makes us ambitious, and we always go for learning. So like any other Indian, I started working hard. So Capgemini and the likes of Tesco, it's not that these organizations, they have a lot of things going on, but ultimately it's to the individual who has to take the ownership, who has to take the intrapreneurial risks within those companies to sign up for a project or a delivery or something and deliver those successfully. And that's how you keep growing, not just professionally, but intellectually. So whether it was the likes of IT operations to software engineering to doing business consulting to creating the entire tech stack for new businesses, whether it was the brand new retail business of Tesco in the US called Fresh and Easy, and creating the Tesco Bank in UK, or opening 7 different offices of MSCI, or looking at a complete transformation of Chevron Texaco with Gemini Consulting, British Petroleum. So the learning was two-faced. One is that this is what is the business, and the business needs to succeed. How does IT enable these businesses to succeed? By doing a tech enablement and a process enablement and efficiency. So ultimately, it's technology is there, and fortunately, it has now become like a food business. Nobody can survive without technology.
Fair point.
But really making it effective so that it leads to business benefits, whether it is productivity, efficiency, and things like that. That is what has been my biggest learning.
It's wonderful, Anant, that you took us down this journey, a nostalgic one. But let's be honest, as far as a lot of the global companies were concerned, it was quite clear that they were coming to India. And I would like for you to correct me if I'm wrong on this. but they were essentially coming to India for the talent and the fact that the talent came at a far lesser cost. Now, you have seen that happen. You've been a part of that entire ecosystem. Today, do you feel that the mindset of the conglomerates, or for that matter, even the Indian talent, has changed in a big way? Because the basic point for the longest time was do a computer science degree, as you yourself have been one of the doyens and the champions of that particular course, one of the initial batches. Get a good job, you get into a corporate, and then life is set and you carry on. But you're still, in a way, dependent on companies abroad. So do you feel that that has changed? The entrepreneurial method has come through today, which was not there.
A lot has changed, not just how the technology has changed, but how businesses have changed and how the IT enablement now happens. Going back to your previous point, the main reason for foreign businesses to set up shop in India primarily as an IT backend was the cost arbitrage of the talent. Sure. It's not that the talent was not available, but the cost arbitrage was there. True. And then the multiplying demands of the number of people or the talent required was not able to, those talents simply did not exist.
Correct.
And three advantages to India: the abundance of talent, the abundance of the quality of talent, the time zone advantage, and then the attitude of ambitious Indians to be able to stretch a little bit beyond to make things work. So all that worked very well in the first 15, 20 years of this decade.
Would you call it the golden age? Will that be correct to say?
Every age is a golden age of the technology as we move forward. If that was the golden age, maybe I'm hoping for the diamond age, and most of the Indians are working towards that. So what has actually changed is once the cost arbitrage comes into play, what happens is within IT, it's either a capex budget or an opex budget sitting in the business's balance sheet.
Sure.
Once that $10 million or $20 million or $100 million comes down to a $20 million, the cost arbitrage between a developed, a US or a UK or a Europe with India is easily in the range of 20 to 30%. $100 cost is India in those countries is not more than a $20 to $30 cost.
That's a huge gap.
So it's a huge advantage.
Right.
And then much better availability and much better productivity as well.
Fair
not
enough.
Just that, because of the competition within India, within people-to-people ambition. So that worked well, but after 2-3 years, the budget gets set. The businesses will continue to look for more, right? 3 years back, I was spending 100 million. Now I'm spending 20 or 30 million. So be it so. So what next? Fair. So that's where the thing started to change, and ambitious Indians started to go up the value chain of the IT. So if the IT in India was doing support, they started to get to engineering, getting into architecture, getting into design, getting into innovation, product design. There are so many companies which have done this very successfully. Well, Unilever is a good example. Cisco is a very good example. Philips is a very good example. My own previous history company, Tesco, is a very, very good example. A lot of engineering and tech design and all those things happen. And as these design and architecture and technology decisions started to move what we call as the global capability centers in India, the GCCs, these businesses are getting fabulous returns and rewards out of that, because the cost of technology and talent will only rise by 5, 10, 15%. But the return of the technology with now product whole and soul getting designed and delivered, it's far more cheaper, far more efficient, far more better. So that value chain has shifted. It is still shifting, and no more the GCC heads. Most of the talent requirement in India has now got into a global functional alignment. So there are people in UK and US who are reporting to senior Indian technologists and people in India who are reporting to. So all that has got pretty much mixed up and integrated within one ecosystem. And it's no more looked at as a particular country, it's a team, and that's the good side of things.
For sure.
All the three, four bellwether companies with Wipro, Infosys, it's a little bit understatement. A lot of it is support services with these big 5, big 10 companies in India. But a lot of engineering is still happening. It's just that because of the NDAs and all that, a lot of these stories don't come out. But
fair enough.
See, technology is technology. Whether we apply our skills to creating an engineering product or doing a support system or doing something else, ultimately the capability remains the same, and it's just that the output is channeled differently for a different cause. So,
fair point.
The last point which I want to add is, we'll come to the topic of AI, but Indian IT pool has become far more smarter in the last 20 years. I myself don't know what technology I was using and doing in 2000, and then in 2010, and then 2020. And I've forgotten 80% of the skills which I picked up in my early first 5-10 years of career. So what I want to say is people are very smart and they adopt. During the COVID time, digital transformation days, the world demanded very heavily full stack developers.
Sure.
Within 6 months to 1 year, India had the largest workforce on full stack developers. Today, the world demanded data science engineers, and we have so many data science engineers. Yeah. We have so many AI engineers, which we have. So the demand is so that is the powerhouse of the Indian IT talent, and it will continue to grow.
Wonderful. Which actually, before I get into the GCC conversation, Anant, I need to ask you this. You mentioned the bellwether companies, you mentioned the big 5 as far as India is concerned. Honestly, doing in a big way a huge foundational favor to the country by building the middle class. They did that, and that can't be taken away. In the last 4 years, maybe 3 years, 2 years, I want to understand from you, there has been this constant, back and forth. And you mentioned something which I thought was very interesting, and I'm picking up on that when you say that there are certain NDAs, certain information doesn't come out, etc. Because where I'm coming with this is this. The model has changed, and I'm pretty sure Infosys, Wipro, and all the big companies know that it's no longer labor arbitrage, it's no longer cost arbitrage because of AI coming in. There have been 2 collaborations recently, one with Anthropic, one with OpenAI. The question I want to ask you is this. I thought it was a breath of fresh air when HCL Tech invested in Sarvam. I thought it should have happened long time back, right? But it's a good thing that it's happened now. But do you feel that instead of doing it with companies from abroad, how about we actually accelerate that entire situation back home and genuinely get into that entire methodology of building our own frontier models?
Now, see, it's a matter of evolution. I am while on one hand, I am a little satisfied soul, but at the other hand, I am very hopeful and optimistic. At the same time, very aggressive on the tech side as well.
I can sense that.
Yeah, we have to look at it from our historical things a little bit. I'll touch base on one. America got independence 1775, right?
True.
We got independence 1947. So there is already 150 years. The way the capital markets and the capitalistic economy and the innovation works, India has a lot to catch up. and it is catching up very fast. So first of all, I want to be very positive. This talk of India should have invested more and all that, it has to be there. If you look at 5 years back, when Indian government invested in some ecosystems, we have the UPI.
Yes.
3 years back, when companies invested in the telecom networks, India has the cheapest telecom on the planet.
True.
Right? The data and the mobile services, not just from a intensity of service, but from availability and from affordability. I think I have traveled a lot to the US and UK, and still the mobile networks goes for a toss on the highway. I haven't experienced that in India ever. So
Fair point.
even on the Atal tunnel between the Ladakh to Kashmir, the mobile networks work. So hats off to this.
Yep.
So that particular thing is happening. If you look at the amount of innovation which is happening in the defense and space tech, because there are so much restrictions in that. So the need is there. India will have to own its IP. There is no stopping for it. It's not that you and I are talking. A lot of Indians are aware of it.
Yep,
It's just,
I agree.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, Anant. I'm not saying it from a negative point of view at all. I'm wanting for you to weigh in on this because you're positive about this and so am I. But I think, how about genuinely putting where the money truly will talk is my question.
Right. See, what happens is that there is one big wave. In 2000 came the Google, and then something was done with Microsoft, and then now Anthropic and the Claude are the new talk of the town. It's okay. The world of technology is so big and it has got so much space. It's not that there is always a first mover advantage. There are very senior leaders in the world who talk about Indian IT is going to be heavily impacted. It is going to be heavily impacted if it remains so what it is doing.
Fair point.
Indian IT has always been innovated and adapted, and while it is a laggard, it has been taking the lead, specifically on leading innovations and our own jugaad mentality to try to dig into the technology sector. I have seen so many examples. Could
you give me one? Because honestly, it'll give wonderful context, especially when you say jugaad. Because honestly, that is a topic which will never bore anybody. Trust me, Anant.
Right. I have so many examples, but very large data transfers actually creates a lot of technology limitations with the amount of pipe and bandwidth required. If you are transferring 1 TB, 2 TB, fine. But what if you are transferring 200 TBs of data from one location to another location? And that particular thing, a couple of media companies and bank companies, it came to us as a problem, and what we call as blob objects, which is binary large objects. And so what some of the engineers did was they broke down the 200 TB of data with a small link. So think of it like a rail carriage.
Got it, understood.
And they are transferring one, and then it comes back to the signal, and then once the checksum marries, and then it sends back. So somebody who was a Delhi guy, he called that program RRK load. I said, what is RRK load? He says, rok ke load. So, and with the blob objects way, it is actually inserting the source data into a database. The database replication is happening, and then the data is extracted and piggybacked. So rather than doing data transfer, they are using the database replication way to actually transfer the data into blob objects. And they could transfer more than 200 TB of data in 4 hours.
Fabulous. See, now that's something nobody could probably do anywhere in the world.
Technology got registered as Aspera, and on a similar lines, we came to know 3 years down the line that NASA also uses a similar technology in a similar way. untold stories, but somehow these kind of things do come out in that rok ke lod jugaad thing.
But thank you so much for that
bandwidth
story.
was not there, so this guy was stopping and going through and coming back and going through.
Rok ke lod. I'm going to remember that. That's a wonderful one. But Anant, what's your take? What's your take on this entire? Honestly, I'm still a little confused, and I mean, regarding the Anthropic and OpenAI partnership, because what that makes me wonder about is this. In a way, Indian IT has opened up the doorways to their customer base, correct?
Yeah.
And they've done it for companies from abroad. Now, I'm pretty sure the contracts will be watertight, etc., and things like that. But it also then makes one wonder. I'm probably obviously from the outside, so I'm just coming up with a conspiracy theory. Wouldn't Anthropic and OpenAI eventually take on their own customers? Would they not eat away the customers that Indian IT has created over the last 40 years? Or is this all planned? And is this something which Indian IT is using right now to piggyback on and build on in the future? Please shed light on this, because I'm confused.
First of all, there is nothing like any conspiracy theory or any long-term Winston Churchill's devious plans at the back end, right? So I say about openly, I don't give a damn about some of the devious plans which East India Company formulated.
Nice.
But coming back to the topic. So see, it's a technology, and the innovation and the productivity and efficiency will actually be the survival for people from a business and profitability and all that.
Fair.
When any government or any industry gets into a protective mindset, ultimately that industry loses.
Agreed.
So we have to be very open. We have to be very competitive. India is having good skill sets and good AI understanding and good AI engineers. There's no doubt about it. One of the biggest irritant, which I also feel so, is that, we don't have a mobile phone of our own. We don't have a laptop of our own.
Yep.
We do not have a cloud of our own, the way it should be, right? And mobile phones and laptops and having clouds of our own, the processing capacity, it is not a startup economy. It is a very capital intensive business.
Agreed.
So this can only be done by large business house. The way the Tatas, Birlas, the Ambanis, Adanis, and so many business houses, the JK Group and all that, or the big companies like Infosys, Wipro should be looking at doing something around that.
Why has it not happened though? It's a very important point you've raised, Anant. Why has it not happened? Given the sheer demand, Apple is trying to manufacture in India because of the fact that the sheer population, 1, 2, and this is an interesting stat. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Apple has the largest population in India where people are switching to Apple or buying Apple for the first time, which makes it fabulous. So from that point of view.
It's just that there are 2, 3 possible causes. I don't have the exact finger point to these reasons. The competition from the outside companies with their marketing, and so it's not that, the selling of laptops and cloud industry and all that has been there. But look at some of the large Indian providers. Ultimately, we end up getting acquired by others.
Yeah, that's
Indians
true.
should not sell their companies. There was a company, I think, which got bought over by Entity Data, which was a pretty large data center services company. One of a very good, our own Indian IT HR systems got bought over by Microsoft. So the merger and acquisition part of it, trying to get into the front page news of Indian newspapers that I have raised 320 million and I have sold my company for 550 million. It's unnecessary, a little I don't like it because we are calling this as an achievement. This is not an achievement.
No, I agree with you on that.
So we need to be more sensible about now capital is available in India. Capital is available with Indian banks and Indian investors and all
Sure.
that. Previously, it was not there. So there must be a need. But ultimately, we bit by bit creating value, technology, expertise, and then for a 5x or a 10x or a 20x valuation,
yeah.
if sell it out, and then the other person is actually having a cooked meal, which is a foreign company,
I agree.
and all your IPs and your knowledge levels then get akin to that. See, that is one reason.
Okay.
Obviously, entrepreneurs and business owners may have their own compelling reasons when they are looking for investment, but we should be a little careful about doing that. Still, I mean, the government of India will approve when it looks at some of the niche tech or critical services, whether it can be acquired. That is one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is some businesses are the gestation period is high.
Which is true.
Today, if I get a £1 billion funding and I want to start a solid laptop business to manufacture and make in India, it may take me 3-4 years, 5 years.
Easily.
And easily to create a thing, then to have, and then be able to have stores all over and all that. So it does take that particular gestation period, and do investors and people have that much patience in today's fast turnaround expectations. We don't have a laptop, a mobile phone, our own data center. We don't even have a solid email system of our own. We don't have an Indian operating system.
Zoho has been championing that cause for some time, to be honest, Anant. And it was, again, very well appreciated when Ashwini Vaishnavji went ahead and made that announcement, if you remember, that, the government will use Zoho as a suite. So do you think it also has something to do with the mindset? Like, for example, Aratai, vis-a-vis WhatsApp, Zoho suite being used vis-a-vis Microsoft, etc. Do you feel it could be a mindset aspect also, generally speaking, of the general population from the adoption point of view?
It's a lot of mindset thing. It is a lot of thing. And nowadays in the public sector business, in the government procurement, a lot of stress and a lot of eligibility criteria is being done with Make in India solutions. They are giving preference and all that. So we can see the needle moving. It is not moving. We don't need a needle to be moved anymore. We need an entire movement behind this particular thing.
True.
Otherwise, by the time we are catching up and we have created our own LLMs and our own Anthropics, the world has moved to something else. And wait for it. Quantum is the new technology which
I was just going to say that.
In the process of coming to and all that, which nobody is looking at. So at times we have that revenue versus cost versus innovation mindset within the private sector space. Something which is need, that advanced base of need analysis and advanced base of changing that particular ways of how it works. That particular innovation still has to come through. But I don't want to be getting scared of AI. We are going to be the forefront runners of AI.
Oh, full on.
It doesn't matter whose technology it is, but Indians are creating far more better AI solutions than anybody else. And we know how the synthesis of contextualization with the underlying data works. See, AI is AI. It has got, it is a brain. Brain is there, but where is the data and the contextualization? And we are the best data science engineers.
I'm pretty sure that we will come up with we'll coin another wonderful term like RR ke log for AI as well moving forward.
Hopefully so.
But you talked about data scientists. You talked about the fact that we've created a wave of them, etc. I want to understand this. Forward deployed engineers is now the new exciting kind of a role that people are looking at, Anant, and the fact that that seems to be the job description that everyone should be actually going ahead and figuring out. Do you think it's a fad, or do you think it is something which is going to here to stay? And what do you want to say probably to that young engineer who, unlike you, doesn't have to have only 1 hour time slots with a computer as you did earlier? What do you want to say to them on this?
FDE, or the forward deployment engineering, is basically nothing but, see, what happens is you have a product and you have a solution.
Yep.
A product is, you go log into the console of the product, you configure it, and it is ready to use within 4 hours or 6 hours. So it's like a watch, right? It's a product. I wear it, and it's ready for me to use. Whereas the solution is something that I need to make pasta. So I have the ingredients, and then I'm making a pasta. But I know the recipe, and I know all the ingredients, and the person who is actually making the pasta on the cooking gas is nothing but an FDE. So he's actually the solution is ready, and it is only doing an installation in a customer specific environment to make it fit for them. So there is some degree of customization, some degree of engineering, some degree of thing required. But so there is nothing different in a FDE or any particular thing. It's the same. And we have been doing this for years, whereby once software is developed, then there has to be a testing done and a deployment done and all that. So the word FDE came into play because half of the backend solution is, 80% of the backend solution is still ready. It has to go and sit in a customer's environment, get the context and the data, underlying data, read it and get to the accuracy levels, and then perform what it's supposed to perform. So there is it's not a simple installation, but there is a degree of fine tuning which is required, and that's where the word FDE came into play. There is not much rocket science to that. Anybody who is an AI engineer can do backend development and a forward deployment engineering.
Wonderful.
India lacks this compute capacity to have very fast LLMs and all that. If you look at the likes of NVIDIA's and all that, they have flushed the US and the US owned businesses with the compute capacity. So every time they are able to add more compute capacity and more new LLMs with the new flash and new things emerging. So they are keeping up with the processing times and the processing demands, which is
very
required.
valid point.
We are pretty much lagging into that.
What's your thought on Yotta's recent announcement then, Anant, on compute capacity? Yotta is talking about the fact that they're looking at 80,000 GPUs. That's their target by 2030. I do understand that it's not enough, but it's a good positive step in that direction. 1, 2. What is your thought on the policy factor from the government point of view?
The number of things which are going on.
Right.
Mumbai, and then there is Navi Mumbai, and then between Navi Mumbai to Pune is something called Third Mumbai.
Right.
Which is coming up as a huge data center capacity.
True.
See, it's the same analogy. No matter how many highways and airports we build, Indian highways and airports are always crowded.
Which is true.
8% CAGR for the last 20 years. The economy pretty much goes, I think we were a 1 trillion, now we are closing more than
4.73, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so
somewhere there.
In 20 years, the economy has gone 5 times. And in the next 5 years, if this goes another twice or thrice, which it is looking like with Indian manufacturing, Indian defense, and so many things, the compute capacity is always going to be a catch-up game in India.
For sure.
Let's be honest with it.
Correct.
And the third Mumbai, which is between Navi Mumbai to Pune, is a hell of a place whereby I think as per the geo surveys, it is having very low seismic gravity sense. So it is a kind of a protected place on the planet, which is not so much, which may not get so much impacted to earthquakes and things like that. So very safe place for data centers. That's called Third Mumbai, and India should erect a lot of data centers. Australia companies have just signed up with something. There are companies who are in the process of creating data center business. It's a very good business opportunity.
And it should be sovereign, right, Anant?
Yeah, for deep-pocketed foreign companies to set up data center in India because it is a very good business. Indian businesses will keep using it. And like working with foreign companies, we have evolved as software engineers and innovators.
Sure.
We will evolve further on the data center side as well. But so that is one thing. And nowadays, we have solid investment capabilities in large business houses. So all this will coming through. I mean, the investment of Tata's into the semiconductors and
Oh,
in
yes,
the
that's a big
hydrogen
one.
with anything like that. So
That's a big one.
the TSMC and Tata collaboration with a chip plant, which recently started production, I think, 2
Yes,
weeks
it did.
back.
Yes, it
So it's just that we Indians are too much, and including me, I would admit that too much impatience ki, yaar ye kal kyun nahi hota hai?
Point hai.
Why I need, that is the whole thing.
Point hai.
It is going on, but not enough. Not enough.
What about the sovereign
Exactly.
aspect on data centers, Anant? What's your thought on that? Because see, we are aware, like Google is trying to is setting up in Vizag the $15 billion investment. As we've talked about other companies, as you just mentioned, do you not think there should be also enough thrust when it comes down to companies from India to go very
It's a little,
hardcore?
yeah, it's a little ironic, I would say. So data sovereignty is important. There was a report within the parliamentary task force, and data sovereignty is critical. It is
Yep.
important and all. But practically, the data is everywhere and it is stored everywhere. I'm using an Office 365 email system and I don't know where my data is. You are
Right.
using a WhatsApp that is hosted by Meta and you don't know where it is and all that. Now you will have your business continuity and replication and disaster recovery centers elsewhere. So data sovereignty is one aspect, but data protection and data availability, residency is another
Correct.
thing. Specifically with the ongoing geopolitical situation, I think in my 50 years, this is the last 2-3 years which I have heard about ongoing wars going on. Otherwise,
Oh,
first
yeah.
50 years of my life was very peaceful. I never have heard about wars.
We only pray,
Managed
Anant,
to
it
solve.
remains peaceful for all of us. But yeah.
We all hope so.
Yeah.
So with the geopolitical situations, the residency of data becomes very critical aspect.
True.
It is important to have that, but it should also be a little understood that as long as we have the right data security elements, we should be okay
Fair
to
enough.
have data outside. I mean, Indian companies should invest in acquiring foreign companies, in acquiring
that.
data centers outside India and own them from the critical loss.
I like
Look at
that.
so many developing countries like Africa and the Middle East and so many other countries where Indian businesses have a lot of new places, South America.
Oh, yeah.
Why to look at always the developed economies and the more mature economies of
Absolutely
Americas and Europe? Right?
Absolutely.
Why can't we build our own secondary data centers in Africa?
Makes sense. Makes sense. That's a very valid point. And I believe that that should be at some level or the other, thought about in a very, very positive and in a very emergent sort of a way. I want to ask you this. I want to go back to the GCC conversation. We are talking about NASSCOM Zinnov. Anant, I'll quote from there, the numbers. Fiscal year 2026, 2,117 GCCs, $98.4 billion in revenue, 2.66 million in terms of talent, 96% of GCCs established after fiscal year 21, launched with product ownership from day one. Now, I want to ask you this because we are talking about sovereignty, we are talking about all of those factors. Honestly, if you ask me, here's my personal take. I still don't like them being called GCCs. Why are they not called India offices? Because to be honest, if we are leaders and you're saying it's a wonderful mix that's happened now, where people from UK and the United States are reporting to senior leaders from India, I think it's about time. So why are we not calling them Indian offices? That's one. What specifically has to change inside a GCC to move from execution to genuine product ownership? Because the target is 5,000 GCCs by 2035.
Right. I don't know why we call it GCCs.
Hai na?
Indian media has to get out of its mindset a little bit to start
I agree.
being a little bit more respectful when we talk about India.
True.
Okay. I will bring out 2-3 things, and if anybody feels a little bad about whatever I'm saying, I'm apologizing in advance.
No, I say so be it, because if
Observation
you're
which I
speaking the
have
truth,
said.
it's fine.
Right. So I have worked in GCCs, and nobody of my colleagues used to call it GCC. We used to call Tesco India. We used to call
Sure.
MSCI India. So these are Indian offices, and my own previous colleagues used to call it like that.
Right.
Indian media calls it global capability centers. Come on, we are just like any other office of that particular
True.
business and our own role. So it's basically we call, then somebody, journalist will say it is a capability center, and one of the things they associated from a capability center was that most of these places or these offices were back offices. And as we start to drive innovation, our product support, our customer interaction also started to do that. My previous employer, MSCI, India was created as a back office, but then the tools and solutions company for the world of investment bank. And we had customers in India, so we used to manage them from here. It's as good as that we have a revenue in India and we are supporting the whole world. So what difference does it make? So it's a business as well as Tesco also started as a back office, but then ended up in a partnership with Tata Trend. And we have the Star Bazaar, which is backed by Tesco and a partner with Tata's and Tesco. And Tesco has a business in India similarly. So that is one aspect of it. So the second aspect of it is a lot of it comes with the leadership side of the things. The leadership team of India should not be, they should always be looking at going up the value chain. They should be challengers. They should not be, how do I provide better service is fine, but how do I challenge the existing leadership of my colleagues in the developed economies to actually make it better for the business.
Is that being encouraged, according to you, Anant, in today's ecosystem by the headquarters? Because a lot of times that's very important. That speaks of the culture of the company.
It is hugely encouraged, trust me.
Wonderful.
See, it has to be relevant and meaningful. It's not about challenging for the sake of challenging. Right? So you are challenging not the individual. You are challenging the business to do it better. When I am challenging you, I'm not challenging you as a Sudhi Sachdev. I'm challenging what is that this is a problem and how we can make this better, and here is the solution and this is how we read. So being objective about it, not trying to take unnecessary artificial excuses, try to show quick wins and look at how we can move the needle. Understand the business. Don't be just an IT guy. Understand the business of the company. Right. So understand the cultural aspect. So that is where the lot of top leadership exchange should happen. A lot of so when in the GCCs, we used to do this very well, where we used to have our foreign colleagues relocate to India for 6 months to 1 year, live here, and work with us as a colleague, with you as an Indian team member, and our Indian managers going and managing senior members of the team. So it just forges a better relationship. So there are a lot of tricks and tips of the breaking the cultural barriers and having a better people hegemony within these organizations to actually make it better. And then the Indian leadership of these India offices of the global businesses has to challenge. And these are phenomenally successful if you look at the Morgan Stanleys and the Ernst & Youngs and the ABN AMROs and things like that, Bank of America. Huge workforce and large offices in India. And as the ecosystem thrives, this becomes a very, very important clog in the wheel of the overall organization, basically inseparable. And That's the beauty of it in terms of how we actually look into that. The third thing which I was trying to tell you is that India celebrates a lot of our own CEOs which are heading multinationals,
Yes.
right? Mr. Nadella, Mr. Pichai, huge respect for them in terms of their leadership. Mr. Bagga, so many, right? We can count so many. Now, even the counting has become quite complex. We forget because number of successful Indians who are heading and leading these large organizations.
Right.
Who are the real heroes? If you look at the Indian enterprises who employ so many people, who run the businesses daily, these are the real heroes.
Yeah.
LIC has got 863,000 employees, by the way.
Wonderful.
Okay. And now the IRDA is trying to make all the insurance policies in a DMAT thing. It's a non-mandatory and the policy shift may happen any soon. Just imagine the insurance policy is getting into a DMAT.
Nice.
No country has done it.
Nice.
It's the first one,
Nice.
right? So there are so many innovations and so many opportunities with a large scale Indian population. I mean, Europe must be a 40 crore population and 70% people fly. That is 30 crores. If there is a group of 30 countries flying with 3 airports, 300 people flying 30 crores. India, 150 countries with 150 airports, but 30% of Indian flying. That's half the capacity. Come on. We don't compare. Well, that's what I'm trying to say here.
Understood.
Let's not look up to lesser population, smaller countries and all that. We need to create our own, the thing which works for us with our population, with our culture, with
Absolutely agree.
our dal chawal and our things. And that's what India needs with our innovation.
100%.
With the 300 rupees per month, unlimited data and mobile calls. That's what India needs.
Wonderful.
Right. With a 10,000 laptop, with a 5,000 rupees server. That's what we need.
Sure.
So we need to create our own. We cannot keep on comparing ourselves to they do it this way. Yeah, we can learn from them, but we should create our own.
That's such a wonderful thought, Anant, and thank you so much for bringing it to the table, because I believe, and I've been trying to profess that for some time, that, and I agree. I mean, for example, I'll give you an interesting thought. Professor Rajesh Sangal said something to me which is kind of similar to what you were just saying. He said that why should we follow any global giant? We have issues of our own as a country. Use AI to solve. He said, make a list of 1,000 problems, solve maybe 100, scale them up. That's the right way to go. And I think probably that's exactly what you're trying to say, that we need to go ahead and curate our own path moving forward.
I'll give you two very exciting examples.
Sure.
One is the great Mr. Bhabha, right? He created a design and architecture in 70s, because India is never going to get uranium. So how thorium is actually going to do that, which has got the largest deposit and a self-sustaining ion exchange. I think we crossed our stage 2 with our great persistence of scientists. So we can actually be a much more power surplus and a much more developed economy. True. And not just using that surplus power, then we can do a deep desalination of our vast shoreline of the seawater to permanently remove the water shortage with drinking water and sanitation water. But magnets, coming to the second point.
Sure.
China holds 90% of the magnets today. Yeah. India is going to take another 20 years or 2 decades to mine our own rare earth. And magnets are used in all electronic. There is a company startup in Bangalore, which I was reading last week. They were heavily impacted because of the export restrictions to get magnets from China. They removed the entire magnet requirement as the technology from their electric motors. And what they did, they created a copper coil and they used a software-induced technology through AI to induce magnetic field in real time when the motor rotates. No magnets required in any electronic any EV vehicles of their scooters what they manufacture.
Wonderful.
So technology and things like that are going to change. Look at the so far competitiveness of the Indian motor industry and the pharma industry. We did not export talent and we remain the world leaders into that.
Yeah.
Somehow in the world of software and compute, we are still catching up. We have to, the Indian IT leaders should think about creating technology by learning from others. We should try to attract our rich talent, which is overseas, which is experience already, and we should
100%
make it far more better with research and Indians are rich. We are the number one tourist people in the whole world.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
read reports.
That's
Why
true.
can't we pay our buddy engineers 5 times more? So they rather not going to an American dollar salary, but rather work here to create this technology. Brain drain is something.
It's a big issue. I agree with
Globalization
you.
is good, but it's a good thing, and it's not like it's a problem. I'm not
Maybe
opposed
it's,
to
Anant, I don't know, maybe
people-
it's a lifestyle choice given the fact that the infrastructure is unfortunately weak in the country. So a lot of people probably feel that they get a bang for their buck when they live abroad. Maybe that's, I don't
Come
know.
on, Sudhi. I
just-
have lived 10, 12 years outside and I
Just playing
travel.
devil's advocate, sir.
I have so many friends living outside. There is no country like India where
is
you
true, I
have the
agree.
best healthcare and accessible healthcare.
Yes.
You have the best education system. You have the food available on the platforms like Zomato and Swiggy, like anything.
True.
Now you have a maid on call available, beauty on call available.
Correct.
So many, everything is accessible. The purchasing power parity of rupee is great. Our weather and our country with cultures and
Oh, yeah.
festivities. My friends, I came back long back after living for 10 years outside India. Some of my friends who have not come back, they regretted that I did not come back, and now that my children are grown up. So living in India is fantastic.
Beautiful.
India
It's
infrastructure is very good. It's just that we have lot of population and
Yes.
the infrastructure is not visible. You take a ride anywhere after 11 and you find that, okay, this road was so wide, I could not even feel it because it's always filled with auto rickshaws and cars and cycle and everything on the same place all the time. So it is there. I agree. I think people, not because of that, but people go to foreign lands not for a lifestyle choice. It's primarily lured by a
The money.
dollar salary initially.
Yeah.
Right. It's mostly a dollar salary and the needs for that fairly so. Nothing to be criticized
fine.
of that. But India has to be creating, owning our own IP, and a lot of people do that. It's going to take a little bit more time, and
But I think
maybe
this-
I wouldn't see that in my lifetime, but my next generation would.
No,
be able
Anant,
to.
I think we will see it in
It's
your-
10, 20 years away. I still
Still
believe
very
we are
young,
still-
Anant. What's wrong with you?
No, man.
No, it's true. But I think I love your positive and upside attitude. It's so refreshing and nice. And I think we need to have this kind of a conversation again and again because it needs to settle in the subconscious of our minds. We need to embrace it. We need to be very, very proud of what we are doing. And I think that's what you're trying to champion. And I doss my hat to that. Honestly, it's truly a breath of fresh air. Which brings me to this point. I want to ask you this. As far as Skillmine is concerned, 1,800 people, and I am very happy that I stand corrected and positively corrected. $243.7 million in revenue, built on the thesis that businesses must continuously evolve to stay relevant, resilient, and future ready. And till now, the conversation you and I have had, trust me, that I'm pretty sure is at the bedrock of Skillmine. So what is the version of Skillmine and the version of Indian technology that you are building, Anant, toward look like, let's say, in the next 5 years? What's your thought?
Not 5 years. I can only talk about the next 2 years,
Okay.
possibly, because we keep on evolving. There are 2-3 things which we are doing. So over the last 3-4 years, we have been building some key niche, our own cyber security technology.
Wonderful.
Then we moved into creating our own AI technology, and we created a lot of AI solutions. And the newest kid on the blocks is something which I call as Perfox, PERFOX.ai, which is our own Indian business agentic AI platform.
Very interesting.
I don't want to plan for 5 years. I plan for things which can be done in 100 days or maximum 200 days, and then it has to hit the thing. We are not a very big business. We are a small business, and we are a bootstrap. So whatever we earn and make profits, we put it back into the business in our R&D and things like that. And that's how we actually have been growing. So the idea is very simple: make in India, but made for the world.
Beautiful.
So this year we expanded into Asia Pac and UK, creating small teams. And why just sell in India while we make in India? And as a services IT business, we service a lot of customers, not just in India, but outside India. But our products and solutions, which we are selling to Indian customers very successfully, we now want to sell this to foreign banks and foreign enterprises.
Is that a challenge though, Anant, in terms of probably they're accepting the product, or from the point of view of a mindset, maybe, I don't know, those challenges, and how are you going to overcome them, if at all?
The biggest challenge is the trust.
Yes, true.
That's the only challenge. Whatever demos we give, whatever customer interactions we have, everybody lauds the gradient of the product, the support team, the knowledge levels, and the way it can be done. We can host it in their country and run it in their country. So there's no data sovereignty of any particular kind. All that is done. Indian company. Okay. Right. How long you will survive? Somebody else will come and acquire you.
Oh, wow. So those are conversations which are still happening, right?
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
I face that every day.
Wow. What's your answer, Anant? And I'm sure it's going to be a banging one.
Create an escrow and transfer the code to you if we sell out. Jugaad. Sir, we are Indians, and that too I am a Marwadi businessman.
Right.
I figure out a way to do a deal.
No, but that's true. But I think that's the sentiment from where you come from, right, Anant? Which is the fact that we as an ecosystem truly need to carry the flag of the fact that we don't need to sell out. We need to change that mindset world over.
So if a foreign bank, I'm talking to, for example, Commonwealth Bank in Australia, and they say that if we use our agentic AI, we're going to be dependent on a lot of this. But what if tomorrow you sell this to somebody else, and then the acquirer will come and charge us 10 times? He said that, no, we commit you for not selling anything. And we put it in an escrow account jointly owned. And if we sell, then you own the code.
Fair.
Eliminate. I am trying to say that it's time that we start throwing the elephants outside the room.
Makes sense.
Not trying to make the elephant sit inside the room quiet, but we just have to kick the elephants out of the room. Indian businesses will not just have to innovate, but fight fiercely in the competitive world. And it will take a little while from an aspect of generating that degree of trust. So while as a central team in India, we have to deliver globally, but we need to have teams selling locally. So most of our, they are all our global citizens. So we have a UK citizen and a Aussie citizen and a Philippine citizen and a Dubai citizen who actually work for us. And that's how we ensure that, I mean, in true Indian sense, Vasudev Kutumbam, right? So we should employ people from everywhere, and they should be treated with the same respect and same things. It's just that they work for an Indian company. How does that matter? Indians work for a lot of foreign companies.
Yes.
How many foreigners work for Indian companies?
I like that parity. Fair enough. And then honestly, it's been a true pleasure having you on Front Page. And it's been such a refreshing conversation. And honestly, a lot of what you've mentioned is something that truly has inspired a lot of people, I'm hoping, who are watching. Because you've been constantly talking about the positive aspect of things. You've been constantly talking about embracing the good. and building on our own, but building it for the world. And Anant, honestly, we wish you and Skillmine all the best in achieving that. And we have a very strong feeling that you will, because RRK Log was one. You're going to create another moment for sure.
I am working very hard at it. I try to stay fit. I'm a 4 a.m. guy. So
Wonderful.
thank you so much for, I enjoyed this session. And whenever I get this opportunity, I try to invoke this consciousness and subconsciousness within the Indian entrepreneurs and business leaders that think about India first.
For sure.
I think it's people who make great nations. Nations don't make great people. So I'm doing my bit. I want a lot of people to do my bit. Jyot se jyot jalate chalo. That's what I will say.
Jareveti, Jareveti.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, I couldn't have put it any better. Anant has, as always, done it wonderfully and poetically. Please do let us know what are your thoughts in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the IIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM.
AI prototypes are everywhere, but very few professionals know how to deploy AI where businesses actually operate. Introducing the Certified Forward Deployed AI Specialist by Adasi, a certification designed for the new generation of AI professionals who can bridge technology, deployment, operations, and business execution in real-world enterprise environments. Because modern AI success is no longer just building models. It's about making AI work inside production systems, customer workflows, and enterprise operations. The future belongs to engineers who can take AI from demo to deployment. This certification is ideal for AI engineers, solutions architects, technical consultants, Gen AI practitioners, developers who want to move beyond experimentation and deploy AI systems that create measurable business impact. The future of AI belongs to professionals who can take intelligence from concept to real-world execution.
There are a lot of models available on Amazon. You can use any model. For this particular workshop, I'll go with Llama 3. It's the simplest, easiest, and in terms of cost, no problem. But yes, if you are an organization, you want to go and work, you can use Anthropic's Claude model. You can use any of these models. So this is the 2ML file. And what you need, all of you, is you can see there is a Docker file also created. There is a Pi project created. There is requirement, and this is the environment. So just this is the app where you have a Pi cache. So this is your cache. Init.py will not have anything, that is for initialization. This is your actual agent script. And then here you have got a README, which you can use automatically running in Docker. And these things come automatically.
You can click on data store. You can click on the tool name. So this is tool 1. It's a data store. You can give the description. Now I'm going with the lowest score in terms of grounding. So we have low confidence that the response is grounded.
AI prototypes are everywhere, but very few professionals know how to deploy AI where businesses actually operate. Introducing the Certified Forward Deployed AI Specialist by Adasi, a certification designed for the new generation of AI professionals who can bridge technology, deployment, operations, and business execution in real-world enterprise environments. Because modern AI success is no longer just building models. It's about making AI work inside production systems, customer workflows, and enterprise operations. The future belongs to engineers who can take AI from demo to deployment. This certification is ideal for AI engineers, solutions architects, technical consultants, Gen AI practitioners, developers who want to move beyond experimentation and deploy AI systems that create measurable business impact. The future of AI belongs to professionals who can take intelligence from concept to real-world execution.
There are a lot of models available on Amazon. You can use any model. For this particular workshop, I'll go with Llama 3. It's the simplest, easiest, and in terms of cost, no problem. But yes, if you are an organization, you want to go and work, you can use Anthropic's Claude model. You can use any of these models. So this is the 2ML file. And what you need, all of you, is you can see there is a Docker file also created. There is a Py project created. There is requirement, and this is the environment. So just this is the app where you have a Py cache. So this is your cache. Init.py will not have anything, that is for initialization. This is your actual agent script. And then here you have got a README, which you can use automatically running in Docker, and these things come automatically.
You can click on data store. You can click on the tool name. So this is tool 1. It's a data store. You can give the description. Now I'm going with the lowest score in terms of grounding. So we have low confidence that the response is grounded.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening. I'm Antara and you're watching Point Break. Just last week, the Ministry of Finance issued 3 custom notifications that most people outside the manufacturing circles barely noticed. The government exempted basic customs duty on components used in display assemblies for automotive, medical and industrial applications. Extended nil customs duty until March 2029 on 6 components used in manufacturing wireless charging modules for smartphones. And of course, expanded the list of machinery eligible for concessional duty in lithium-ion cell manufacturing from a narrow list to 85 categories of capital goods. Now, coating machines, winding machines, wielding system, testing equipment, formation machines, drying system. Now, at a first glance, it looks like a routine customs update, but really underneath it is a potentially significant shift in how India thinks about manufacturing. Now, for years, India's electronics policy has sort of focused on finished products only, which is, smartphones, laptops, electric vehicles. Now, this move shifts attention towards the components that sit underneath multiple industries simultaneously. The same lithium-ion cell can go into an EV and energy storage system, a drone, a data center, a medical device, or even a telecom tower. Now, the question is whether this signals something bigger. Assembling products to really building the components that define industrial competitiveness. And also, can policy incentives alone create globally competitive manufacturing champions? Those are the questions that we are answering today. I'm Antara, ladies and gentlemen. This is Point Break. Let's get right into it. I have 2 guests with me today, in fact, who see this policy shift from, I believe, 2 very different vantage points. One from the investment and India-US technology ecosystem, and of course, the other one from the ground level of building an EV platform that depends on exactly the components this policy is really trying to localize. Ramesh Puthukode is a financial planner, investment strategist, fiduciary, and technology advisor based in Florida, one of the most active voices in India-US technology and AI ecosystem, and of course a regular contributor to conversations right here on AI Network. He in fact brings the capital and the investment lens that manufacturing policy conversations often lack. Ramesh, a very warm welcome. In fact, welcome back to Point Break. And of course, the second guest today with me is Dr. Shrikant Reddy, who is the founder and CEO of Hala Mobility, one of India's pioneering EV as a service and multi-modal electric mobility platforms. He holds dual master's degree from University of Padova in Italy and Polytechnic University of Madrid in Spain, specializing in big data, telecommunications, and machine learning. He in fact completed his doctoral thesis in mobility while working with the Worldwide Mobility in Madrid and came back to India in 2020 to build Hala. The company has raised, I believe, over rupees 30 crore. It operates a franchisee-led Helix framework across multiple cities and serves gig workers in e-commerce delivery fleets with EV rentals, leasing and financing. Shrikant, welcome to Point Break.
Thank you, Antara.
Thank you, gentlemen. So let's, dive right into it here. I'll start with a central question, and this is for the both of you. 3 customs notification issued on July 8. right? Most people miss them, but the argument is that this is a component-first shift in India's manufacturing policy, away from incentivizing finished products towards incentivizing the building blocks that really serve multiple industries. Is that reading right, or does it actually matter there? Ramesh, if you want to start.
Thank you, Antara. Yes, it is a very good move, I feel, because I think till now we are mostly assembling at the low end. Therefore, this one would help the companies or some of the OEMs or whoever it is, to start creating the supply chain here itself, the manufacturing part of it. Therefore, the high duties was discouraging these companies to establish, and hopefully the capital would start flowing into this area. This is where Vietnam has taken the advantage of the China plus one factor, and Vietnam is a small country of just 100 million people. Therefore, they are already facing labor shortages, whereas we have the biggest labor supply in the world, labor workforce, even more than China. Only thing is that we lack in the skills of the Chinese workers. For hopefully we can get to the skill, we can upgrade the skill level, and also this will create the environment and the ecosystem to go ahead and capture the market.
Certainly, Ramesh. Shrikant, you want to add?
Thank you, Antara. Thank you, Analytics India Magazine, for bringing up this discussion at a very important point in the Indian
Our pleasure, always.
India has already been demonstrating its build manufacturing scale, right? Over the last decades, electronic production has increased, and the mobile phone manufacturing and the industries also have increased significantly. But now I think this point is all about, can we move from just manufacturing products or to own the entire technology stack, components, intellectual property, infrastructure, and everything around, right? So this, I think, is the important point for us to become that industrial leadership, which comes from deeper integration of, say, battery cells, its components, semiconductors, their separators, the battery management systems, the software and everything. In fact, if you look at by 24-25, I think we were close to 11 lakh crore worth electronics that we're producing. And our export has also gone up to more than 3 lakh crore units, right? So I think with the incentives like this, with the policy changes like this, will help us to go deeper into the technology landscape, building the industries, and be positioning ourselves as the leaders in the electronics landscape or the manufacturing side.
Certainly, Shrikant. Thank you for answering that. I also want to push on whether this is, genuinely new thinking or the same playbook with different line items, right? So India's electronics policy has historically focused on finished products. PLI schemes for smartphones, for laptops, for air conditioners. The assumption was that if you incentivize the product, the component ecosystem will follow, right? I believe that assumption has not fully played out here, because India manufactures hundreds of millions of devices, yet domestic value addition, it remains significantly lower than China or South Korea or Taiwan, even Vietnam for that matter, right? Now the components, right, the displays, the batteries, the charging modules, they have largely continued to be important. Now these three notifications, they shift the focus upstream. Now instead of the product, the incentive now targets the input used to make the component. So Shrikant, my question is to you here. Hala Mobility is an EV platform. You, in fact, depend on batteries and on displays, on the component ecosystem these notifications are trying to build. When you look at this policy shift, would you say that it moves the needle for a company like yours, or is the gap between a customs duty waiver and an actual domestic supply chain still enormous?
So again, the policies like this would help us to kind of quickly accelerate our journey, right? But it doesn't really remove the dependency from others. Like today, if you look at it, we are still importing a lot of raw materials which are still needed to build the entire final product, right? It can be a battery, which includes the cells and the BMS and everything, and the entire today, at least majority of the softwares are still brought. Like, in the recent times when we have seen, the e-rickshaws getting turned off, that's like another security threat as well, right? So I think the policies like this will only help us to kind of accelerate the journey, kind of create the employment in the initial stage, but it will not help us to be self-reliant in the longer run, right? And to be self-sufficient in the longer run. So, again, as I said, we had our own fair share of a journey, 2017 to now. The EV mobility domain has also grown in its own shape and form, having learned our lessons, kind of bringing in some subsidized goods, incentives around it. But that itself cannot build the entire ecosystem. We are yet to prove ourselves as the market leaders, yet to prove ourselves as the industry dominance, and yet to become the export center for the globe, right? Like, so that's how I see.
All right, Srikanth, thank you for answering that. Ramesh, again, from an investment perspective here, would you say that this is the beginning of India's transition from product-led incentives to component-led incentives? And are components actually where the real value in electronics manufacturing gets captured? Because I believe that's a very different bet from what India has been making.
Yes, Antara, certainly we will be going up to the higher value by this. But we have to remember, I was reading a couple of weeks ago an article on the iPhone, for example, is $1,000. It's $1,000. The iPhone is approximately. The $650 is captured by the US companies. $650. Why is it? Because they like Apple owns the design, the architecture, the software, the iOS, everything, and the other $350 comes from the other hardware components, okay, and the things like that. Now, if you look at it, the assembly part, what we are doing, the US right now, I think 90% of the US iPhones are shipped from India right now, okay, but the component of the value, the value of the whole thing that India is capturing is only like $30 for iPhone, $30 right now, okay, because the assembling is not a very, as we all know that. Now we have to get into how to get the $200 at least, okay, we have to be practical. The $650 may not be possible because it's an American company, IP, everything owned with the software, the iOS, the ecosystem, the whole, everything is, therefore that is difficult. The out of the $350, China is capturing about $150 today, okay, and South Korea and Japan and, China is capturing about $75, I read. Japan, South Korea and Taiwan is capturing the rest of the 250 to 300, something like that, approximately. We have to capture that part, what China is doing, and slowly go back and go on the high value chain of what South Korea and Taiwan and Japan is doing. Now, we have to be practical. It may not be possible to capture everything. We have to be practical about it, okay? If we can capture at least some part of it, that's good. Now, coming back, Srikanth made a good point. The only way we can capture the whole thing is like creating a product like Apple, a company like Apple, or a company like Google, or a company like Meta, which is where you capture the whole thing, most of the stuff, because they own the IP, everything, the technology and all that stuff. For the full stack, as Srikanth was mentioning, we have to get through the full stack. Now, that will take time. We cannot expect that immediately, but I am sure this will create a lot more, maybe it will create thousands of crores or lakhs of crores into the components and will create the jobs. What we need right now is jobs, because we are not Taiwan or South Korea or Japan or US. We need labor intensive industry a lot, okay, because we have a lot of surplus labor. We have to create that. So component getting from China +1 and getting some of the stuff which Vietnam got, which if we can capture, that will be good. And I think capital investment would increase. Tata Electronics is expanding, and Foxconn is expanding, and all. Therefore, they have that. They can go the higher value chain, and hopefully will capture that at least $70-80 per iPhone, rather than the $10 to $25 per iPhone which we are doing right now.
Understood, Ramesh. Understood. Thank you for your perspective there. Let's go deeper on the value addition problem here. India, like you were mentioning, manufactures hundreds of millions of devices, but how much of that is truly and genuinely Indian? The displays are imported, the batteries are imported, the processors are imported, the wireless charging components are imported. A smartphone assembled in India often has domestic value addition of, I believe, 15 to 20% compared to significantly higher levels in China. Now, the phrase made in India, right, that phrase by itself can mean a product assembled in India from imported components, or it can mean a product where significant manufacturing actually happened right here in India. Right now, for most of the electronics, I believe it is closer to the former, right? So, Ramesh, this question is for you. Does this move meaningfully increase domestic value addition, or would you say that the customs duty waivers and inputs simply making imported components just slightly cheaper without actually building the manufacturing capability to produce them domestically? What really prevents India moving beyond assembly?
Now, there are two factors here. Antara, we have to first, the policy is correct by the finance minister, doing it. I appreciate her. Now, the thing is, we have to, it will take some time, I feel. It's not going to happen immediately. There should be, there is also a geopolitics here. Okay. Please remember, China doesn't want India to be a competitor, because China knows that Vietnam cannot be a competitor because it's a small country. But China is aware that if, for example, if you remember a couple of months ago, Reliance wanted to build battery cells, and China stopped sending banned its equipment to be exported to India. Okay. Now this happened a couple of months ago. The reason is India has the scale, India has the labor force. Okay, and China seriously will put blockages in not the components coming back. Therefore, we have to be aware of that, and we are probably aware of it. I'm not saying that we are not. Therefore, it will take some time. I don't think we can say the display unit will come immediately into India from, let's say, South Korea or from China. It's because it's a massive investment. And because Samsung, the main two display unit are Samsung and LG, and I heard they have outsourced some of the technology to Chinese companies too. Okay, but they have to establish that's the OLED, that display unit is about $100 to $150 per iPhone. That's the highest value component, more than the processor, by the way. Okay, therefore we have to get that. It may take some time, but at least if we can go up the ladder, get some battery components, get some chargers, get some things which is all imported, I think that is a good start, I think. Therefore, it will be made in India, not just assembled in India, and it will happen, and it will take some time before we can see the fruits of this policy.
Certainly, Ramesh. I believe that distinction between reducing import costs and building manufacturing capability is really the crux of it there. Shrikant, how much value is still imported even in what gets called made in India in the EV space? Because Hala Mobility is operating EVs on Indian roads, right? You know what is actually Indian in those vehicles and what is not.
Right. So if you look at the EV landscape today, right? Like I'll speak specifically about the two-wheelers. I would say like literally everything comes from China today, right? Although we are trying to build our own capacity in terms of, say, motors, the controllers, the BMSs and everything. So that again particularly needs a little maturity in terms of them being production ready, right? So today, if you look at it, at least if there are 100 manufacturers of two-wheelers in India today, or assemblers in that particular matter, at least top 5-6 people are the ones who do the entire R&D in terms of every part possible. Of course, certain key components is what something they're exploring. But then there are 95% of the market which completely relies on import only, taking it from plastics, the electronics, the metal parts, including the firmware level, right? So they take it from the cells, taking it from the BMS. Everything is today made in China. And so, as Sir rightly mentioned, they know when to stop this tap and when to kind of open that up for us, right? So it is becoming more and more dependent on China rather than building ourselves. Everything in India, made in India. Yes, just tagging ourselves as made in India is not really important, but trying to focus on say example, if there are 100 components in a electric vehicle, let us focus on that 5 to 10 particular components where we can build everything and build our resilience in that particular product. That's how I see. But majority today again is dependent on China.
Okay. All right, Shrikant. Thank you for answering that so candidly. Among the 3 notifications, the lithium ion cell expansion may be the most consequential, right? The government has replaced a narrow existing list of eligible machinery with an expanded list of, I believe, 85 categories of capital goods, right? Covering the entire lithium ion cell production process from, coating machines to formation machines to drying systems. The significance of lithium ion cells is hard to overstate here because they sit, I believe, at the center of EVs, right? Energy storage systems, consumer electronics, drones, telecom, infrastructure, and data centers. Now, the biggest beneficiaries, according to industry experts, battery gigafactories, EV manufacturers, renewable energy projects, telecom infrastructure providers, data centers, even medical device manufacturers, right? Shrikant, would you say that battery manufacturing is becoming India's semiconductor moment? Because the thing that India needs to own to be truly competitive in the industries of the next decade, and also what would it actually take to compete with China in terms of batteries? Because I believe China's dominance in this space is not just about duty structures; it's also about a decade of investment in supply chain depth and scale. So, what is your take on that?
Absolutely, Antara, right? Like batteries are becoming strategically important in everything that we are talking about today, right? Recently, there was one quote saying that we are going to fully move from AC and fully depend on DC, right? So, and I think that is one statement that can hit us hard. And, the way forward is, it's more like a semiconductor, how semiconductors are important to us, the same way for the batteries as well, because they're more important in electric vehicles, the renewable energy storage, the battery storage systems, the telecom data centers, as you mentioned. But India also has recognized this through the PLI scheme that was recently there, right? Like the advanced chemistry cells, the PLI scheme that was given 18,000 plus crores that was allocated for this particular site to kind of create 50 gigawatt hour of domestic manufacturing capacity. So out of this, again, 40 gigawatt hours capacity is kind of given to someone else. Then 4 key players is what I say, but then 1 gigawatt hour is currently installed. This is what I know. Again, but this also tells us a different story, right? Like the challenge is converting this allocated capacity to be a production grade capacity, right? So if the opportunity itself is much larger than the cell itself, the battery ecosystem includes the cathode cells, the anode cells, the separators, the BMS, the software layer, because today the software layer is also equally becoming more and more important for than the hardware also. So yes, I would say manufacturing of batteries has become another semiconductor wave for us, right? So because the dependency on the batteries is going to increase and will be increased for sure.
All right, Shrikant. Ramesh, the government is moving towards, I believe, technology neutral framework for lithium ion cells, right? Meaning the same machinery duty concession, it applies regardless of, whether the cell goes into an EV, a phone, or an energy storage system for that matter. Now, from an investment standpoint, does that horizontal approach attract more capital than a sector-specific incentive? And could India realistically emerge as a battery manufacturing hub?
I think you made that. I think that's the right approach, I feel, because having a agnostic machine or whatever equipment which can build it, the battery cells, whether it is for EVs or whether it is for storage systems or whether it is for some like iPhones or phones or anything, I think that is the best approach, because that way your ROI is much more possible rather than sector-specific investment. But I am not sure whether like a CATL, the biggest battery manufacturer in the world, Whether they have the same type of approach, I'm not sure about that. But the thing is, for India, at least that's a good approach because we are starting on a smaller scale. So to compete against China and go against the global markets, we cannot be having a sector-based investment because that will not be possible for a company to compete against the Chinese companies because they have the scale. They also use the same thing for the humanoid robots or something else right now. Okay, the drones. Okay, therefore the satellites that are being planned now in the orbit. Therefore, I think this is the right approach. And I just want to give you an example. For example, Tesla does the anode, the cathode, Musk has a refinery built already. Okay, so for all his batteries, he wants to become independent, but he has got the scale because he has got the EVs. He's planning to he's sending thousands of satellites per year on SpaceX. Then he's building data centers, and he has got supercomputers. Then he is getting and he's putting a big fab. It's called Terafab to make the semiconductor chip because he wants to build his own semiconductor chips.
Yeah.
Okay. So it may not be possible for an Indian company to go on that scale to go exclusively for a sector. But I think, we have to create this approach. What the scheme has given is an excellent way to make sure that a company can sustain by having the horizontally, like every industry it can target by making the batteries. So I think now to answer your question, will India become a battery hub? I think it will take. I don't think we can jump to that conclusion right now because we are just started right now. We are not even it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Therefore, you have the Chinese right there, and even you have some of the American companies are also into battery manufacturing. There is a lot of in California, a lot of battery manufacturers are doing some high-end work on different things, on solid-state batteries too. Okay, therefore, and you have the LG and Samsung and a couple of 3 or 4 Korean companies are big battery manufacturers, and you have Japanese Panasonic and there are a few of them. Therefore, we just started at the gate. Therefore, I think it will take time. We are not.
Would you say we are on the right path?
I think we obviously, yes, we are on the right. There is no doubt of that.
All right. Well, I mean, that's a good place to start, I believe. That horizontal point sort of connects me to the next question here, really. I believe a notable aspect of this policy is its horizontal approach. The same display assembly manufacturing capacity can now potentially serve smartphones, it can serve EVs, industrial electronics, medical devices, and energy storage systems simultaneously. Now, the same lithium-ion cell factory can serve multiple end markets. I believe this is different from previous PLI schemes, which were sector-specific, right? A PLI for smartphones, a PLI for white goods. The argument was that for a horizontal approach is that it improves capital efficiency, it encourages larger scale investments, creates manufacturing capacity that is resilient to demand shifts in any single sector. Ramesh, the question is to you here. Is India moving from sector-specific incentives to ecosystem-level incentives? And also, does that horizontal approach actually attract the kind of large-scale investments like Gigafactory that India needs? Or would you say it risks spending incentives too thin across too many of these sectors?
No, I would go with the former argument, saying that it creates a horizontal, and we have to take that approach because as we said, please remember, we are dependent on foreign investments a lot, on the FDI, and we have to get that FDI into the ecosystem, because there is not much capital within India to go against the Chinese massive companies. Therefore, it has to be a combination of FDI plus the local like investments from the big companies like Reliance or Adani or something. Now, coming back, is this the right approach or we are spreading thin? No, I think this is the right approach. We are not because we have to start off. We cannot start and from the right at the beginning right now. It's because we cannot catch up with the. Therefore, this is the best way to capture it. And at least let's get to the domestic. Support the domestic. Make sure we have a big EV industry in India, the two-wheelers and the cars and things like that. Therefore, at least if we can displace the imports with the local, that is a big start. And I am not even thinking about exporting it. Exporting is something that will take time. And the Chinese, it's very competitive to go against the Chinese. Therefore, let us at least create and displace all the imports if possible by, let's say, have some sort of a target. By 2035, all batteries used in India for the EVs on a mobile, anything is made in India. Therefore, that should be our goal.
Thank you, Ramesh, for that clarity. Shrikant, for Hala Mobility, which I believe operates across e-commerce, delivery, gig workers, and multimodal mobility, a horizontal manufacturing ecosystem is actually closer to what you need than a smartphone-specific one. Does a policy that serves multiple end markets simultaneously make the investment case for domestic component manufacturing more or less compelling?
See, at the end of the day, for operators like us, right, where the cost of goods is much, much more critical because we, at the end of the day, have to borrow capital to bring in those kind of assets on board. So having, ecosystem which is horizontally spread across, which will also try to create industries which are, parallelly competing or, not competing, but at least value adding to each of them, right? Example, if I take a EV, then there are like say 27, 28 core components, and then 28 core components are given the equal incentive, which can enable the total cost of the vehicle to go lower and lower, right? It helps us to penetrate that particular vehicle more into the market, right? Say example, today, anyone, if they have to look at the electric vehicle side, they'll be like, my total cost of ownership or the initial capital that I'm spending on this particular vehicle is significantly higher. So spreading across capital into multiple other horizons will ensure that yes, the components are localized, yes, the components are available, and this also reduces down the total cost of the final product that is being developed, right? So as simple as, say today someone is giving incentives for the cells, the other one for the BMS, the other one for the internal materials for the battery pack to be made. So everything is available. The logistic cost is reduced, the freight cost is reduced, the dependency is reduced. So that enables us to build a product which is more efficient and become a supply chain reliable system.
Understood, Shrikant. And since we are talking about incentives, let's be direct about what incentives can and cannot do. Right? Duty reductions improve the economics of importing manufacturing inputs. That is a real benefit, yes. But competitive manufacturing ecosystems, they require, I believe, far more than tax relief. China's dominance in electronics and batteries did not really emerge from duty structures alone. It emerged from deep supplier networks, manufacturing density, logistics advantages, engineering talent density, and decades of, I believe, coordinated industrial policy. Now, companies to watch on the beneficiary side include Dixon Technologies, Sirma's SGS, Amber Enterprises, Tata Electronics, Ola Cell Technologies, and there are many more. These, I believe, are the firms who are best positioned to convert lower input costs into, actual manufacturing scale. So, Ramesh, would you say will lower duties actually translate into more manufacturing investment, or simply into higher margins for companies that are already importing these components? What really separates a temporary incentive from a sustainable industrial advantage?
Antara, I disagree with you. You listed out all the positive of China, but remember, They are the ones who subsidize the land. They give land free, they give water free, they give all these provinces, they give the electricity very, very low cost. They don't have labor standards. They make the workers work, and they pay you overtime. Nothing. They benefited out of their system. We cannot do that because we are a democratic country. India is a democratic country. Therefore, we can. Now, China did not become what China is because of just by some vision. They did a lot of things which forced the companies to do a certain thing. They gave a lot of subsidies, but at the same time forced the companies to do a certain way. And in India, we have to give them. If we don't give them these incentives, we cannot compete. How else can we compete if we don't give for these small companies? I don't want to give this to, for example, I'm just transgressing here a little bit, please pardon me.
Please.
Like Visakhapatnam, they gave for Google and for Meta and for AWS massive land at a very low cost in Visakhapatnam. Now, I think those companies don't need that thing because they're all multi-trillion dollar companies. But for small component manufacturer based in Hyderabad or in Bangalore or a small scale industry someone, I think we should give these incentives to them. Give them probably in a zone, give them the land at a very, very low cost or free for about 10 years. Give them subsidies for them and also reduce the custom so that they build on these things. Therefore, that's the way to go, I feel. For we can, China did not do on being visionary and things. I agree they did create the ecosystem, but we should also do that. Therefore, I think this incentive is a good thing, and I don't think it is just a margin for the companies. I think it will create a system for India. I feel I'm positive on that.
All right. Yes, please, Srikanth. You want to add on to that?
Yeah. So I think adding on to Ramesh sir, it's exactly bang on, right? Like incentives are necessary, but they're not just enough. And that's not just the margin element for any manufacturer, right? The PLI schemes can give us the initial development or economic advantage, but cannot permanently compensate for the expensive capital, logistics, weaker supply chain, or anything as such. But the manufacturer, at the end of the day, assesses the total cost of production, right? So the government incentives, therefore, should be connected more to the wider ecosystem, and that should support for, say, the component suppliers. It can be material processing, it can be manufacturers, it can be workforce training, right? And also, if this incentive can be increasingly linked to outcomes, say how much domestic value addition are you doing, right? How much are you actually spending on R&D to kind of build more newer products? So it's all about the product reliability as well. So things like this, the incentives have to kind of focus on this, so that again, it's all about how do you kind of build a long-term reliable product and reliable systems in India.
Understood. Absolutely, Srikanth. Thank you for that. In fact, Srikanth, you founded Hala Mobility after working in mobility in Europe, right? You came back to India to build specifically because you saw an opportunity that policy could unlock. Now, how much of manufacturing success is policy versus execution? And in your experience, building an EV platform in India, which one do you think has been harder?
Policy was, again, a push for the entire EV landscape to happen. Like, we have built technology in Madrid for some of the larger entities. It can be El Carmen, Hispano Suiza, or Cartago Daimlers of the world. But the challenge was to kind of give that acceptance towards electric vehicles, changing the narrative that electric vehicles can be easier, cheaper, or the alternative, and to be more acceptable than the petrol vehicles, right? And pushing that narrative was more tougher than anything else. Yes, incentives, policies have helped us to kind of be where we are, but also it drained us. At one point of time, it was more like there are products available which are unreliable. We've burnt our hands and learned our lessons there, right? Like, so standardization has played a big role, and bringing us this incentives helped us to push more and more EVs on road, and it also helped us to reach the tier 2, tier 3 towns in Indian market, right? So I would say it was more of an advantage for us, and at the same time, it helped us to be where we are today.
All right. That execution reality sort of needs to sit alongside the policy announcement here. Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit and let's go back to China here. China's dominance in electronics manufacturing emerged over decades, right? It emerged through deep supplier networks, manufacturing density, logistics advantages, engineering talent, and even coordinated industrial policy at a scale India has never really attempted. Now, South Korea built Samsung and SK Hynix with significant government support. Taiwan built TSMC. Vietnam has captured a significant share of electronics manufacturing in a relatively short time through a combination of low cost, policy stability, and aggressive foreign investment attraction. India is a later entrant into this race. And the question is whether India can compress the timeline or whether the structural advantages of incumbents are simply too large. So, Ramesh, what lessons should India actually take from Taiwan, South Korea, China, Vietnam? Because each of these stories is different. And what is the biggest bottleneck you feel is for today, for India becoming a globally significant component manufacturing hub? Would you say it's capital? Is it talent? Is it technology? Is it supply chain? Or is it just scale?
Based on what I read about and follow the experts in all these fields in India, I think we are having a talent problem too, because Chinese education system is very, very high quality, generally speaking. And therefore, I think China produces a lot of good technologies, and they are not, and therefore that is an advantage for them, the skill, the labor. Same thing with South Korea. It all started with Japan. This whole blueprint of this Southeast Asia, how they become developed, or Northeast Asia and plus Southeast Asia, you can say. Okay, how they become developed is the Japanese model. Japanese started in 1960s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Then Korea followed it. Then Taiwan followed it. Singapore. Then China, Vietnam. Therefore, we have to follow the same model, and that is the skilling of the people, and also the capital and the resources. The only problem I feel is Antara. Chinese government has the resources to spend and give, as I was telling, all the incentives and the subsidies and all. To that level, I don't think it is fair to assume that Indian government can do that, because we have a lot of other issues, challenges, and there is also this election-based thing. Therefore, you have to take care of people in a different way. Therefore, it's not the model. The labor, even though both India and China are similar population size, the other things are not. Whereas the Japan, Korea, Taiwan, the population is very much smaller, way smaller, and therefore they could do away. For example, I'm just giving you an example. If a fab opens in Korea, let's say, to have the same equivalent effect, economic effect in India, we have to open 25 fabs for the population I'm talking about. You got my point? So, because there are 25 times or 35 times lower population than India. Therefore, if one fab opens in South Korea, we have to open 35 fabs to make it to come to have the same level. Therefore, there is an advantage for them, and same thing with Taiwan and Japan and Vietnam and things like that. But we cannot, but we have to follow that model. First, we have to get the training and the skill level. I think we have to upskill our thing. And I have read a lot of experts in this field in India. I have followed them. They keep mentioning that our upskilling of our workers is very important. And for example, when we do this, when we did these metro lines in the country, drilling and all that stuff, we have to bring, I heard, Chinese workers, because we didn't have that, the know-how and things like that, I heard. I'm not an expert on that, but that's what I read about it. Therefore, in the metro lines, we have to get some Korean guys, the Chinese people and all that stuff to get that thing. So we have to get those upskilling of our labor, and so we have to concentrate on that, not just on degrees, because just a Bachelor of Engineering without training the student practically on things, it's non-effective. And I think that's what I feel. And Srikanth would know about it because he studied, he's exposed, he did his PhD and all in Spain. So that is, I feel, and followed by capital and other things you listed, and our infrastructure.
Yeah.
We have great highways now, but within the cities, we have to get that infrastructure, that problem. We have to solve the last mile problem and things like that. So there is a bunch of lists, but I think we are on the right path. These are all every country has got problems. It's not that, in all countries, we have our own issues, but I think we are on the right path.
Absolutely, Ramesh. In order for us to just come onto a level playing field, I believe there are a lot of boxes that we have to check in the first place. Very rightly said, Ramesh. Srikanth, I want your perspective on this one now. How far would you say is India from being globally competitive in the component manufacturing layer that these notifications are trying to build? Give me a realistic timeline on this. I don't want an optimistic version. I want a very, very realistic, honest timeline and your personal take on this.
I think, it's really difficult to give a specific timeline, right? India has made a strong progress in final product manufacturing. Like one such example is how the mobile phone manufacturing happened, and how the exports are happening from India, right? That itself is one such example. But however, component manufacturing is the second most difficult stage, is what I believe. Like it requires greater precision, higher production capabilities, much more R&D and everything. And India has crossed that credibility barrier in assembly, but we need to kind of build that credibility in the component level also, right? We are at the beginning of this transition. I wouldn't say this is the particular timeline where we are going to reach. It's really difficult. But the real measure will not be on how many products are labeling itself as made in India, but the real measure is how many of these products value technology and intellectual property is genuinely made in India.
All right, Srikanth. I want to pivot here slightly. The real impact of these notifications will not be measured by duty savings, right? It will be measured by whether India develops globally competitive manufacturing capabilities. Now, whether its domestic battery gigafactories actually get built, whether display manufacturing moves onshore, whether made in India actually starts to mean something, deeper than just assembled in India. Srikanth, and like we were just speaking about it, for you as a professional, what should success actually look like by 2030 for the sectors these notifications target? Which sector benefits, the most? Is it smartphones, EVs, energy storage, medical devices, industrial electronics? And also, would you say that India could become a net exporter of critical components, or is that still a distant aspiration?
So I'll go one by one. If it has to be 2030, success should be more measured in terms of if we are able to build multiple commercially operational battery cell plants, globally competitive component manufacturers again, stronger power electronic capabilities, and export-oriented manufacturing platforms, right? All these are good, but if again, as I said, the critical question would be, how much of India's manufacturing outputs comes from Indian components, right? And it's from the Indian technology, and it's from the Indian IP, and it's from the Indian global brands, right? So that's what defines us, if we are ready to be self-reliant, or if we are still import-driven kind of a ecosystem, I would say, right? Yes, India is still making a lot of good progress. If you go to Coimbatore down south here, they're seeing the motor controllers being manufactured, right? The controllers being manufactured. Now, which industry will get much benefit is, because I'm in this domain of EV, I can speak much more about it.
Yeah.
I could say the battery energy storage system is gonna be much a beneficiary about localizing the components and building a cell unit, right? Because we are now looking at having the solar units and every on every house. So we need to be able to save much more energy. So it is battery energy storage systems, it is the telecom operators, it is the electric vehicle ecosystem like ours who is going to see much benefit. But at the same time, the other medical industry, or say the defense industry, still is equally going to see the benefits of having localization. So by 2030, if I have to say, at least we need to, if not everything, but at least some of the units, if we are able to localize, right? It can be true cell manufacturing units if they're coming out of India, and true electronic components coming from India. That will be a big win for us.
All right, Shrikant, thank you for that. Ramesh, the last question before I let both of you go. India's first manufacturing story was, about assembling products. India's next manufacturing story may be about owning the components that power, entire industries. Would you say that India could move from being a factory for the world to becoming a supplier of the technologies that the world's factories depend on? And does this week's notification move that particular needle?
I think, frankly speaking, that's way off. Right now, Antara, our thing is now to get at least some basic components made in India. Therefore, I think what you're talking about is a good vision to have, and that's maybe we should look at it how the policy and its impact and what how it turns out to be in about 5 years, and then take it from there. Because to become as you said, the supplier of technology or things like that, that needs R&D. Yeah. That needs R&D, and that needs a lot of investments. For example, I'm telling you, just even on the thing, now this world is not like 20 years ago when China had the advantage. 25 years ago, US was very open for outsourcing and things like that. Therefore, all the labor-intensive industry from the US went to China, and they gave including the rare earth things which US is now clamoring to come back. They gave it to China in the 90s because it's polluting the thing and all that stuff. Okay. Now today's world is different. Therefore, for example, just to give you, Apple is onshoring a lot of high-end stuff within the US now. If you read it, like $600 billion they're putting, the high-end stuff, in the phones, in the iPads, and in the things like that. Therefore, we may not get the top end. We may be getting at the thing, unless the only way you can get to the top end is if we create own brands, own companies. Because India has to create a Samsung of India, a Huawei of India, an Apple of India, a BYD of India, a Tesla of India. That's the only way we can go up to the whole value chain and the whole thing and supplier of technology. But as long as we do work for Samsung or for Apple, then I don't think we can only be looking at some components manufacturing rather than the full stack of technology. That's what I feel. But anyway, this scheme, it will take us, even for the components, let us give some time. It's on the right path. So it will take a few years to see how the investments are coming and how we are going up the thing. And it's not going to be, as they say, Rome is not built in a day, therefore it will take us some time.
Certainly. Brilliantly put, Ramesh. Ramesh and Shrikant, thank you both for this invigorating conversation. And for whoever is tuned in right now, ladies and gentlemen, 3 notifications, 85 capital goods, duty relief until March 2029. The components are small, the ambition behind them is not. Now, lithium-ion cells, display assemblies, wireless charging modules, these are not peripheral inputs. They are the building blocks of the industries that will define them the next decade. EVs, energy storage, drones, medical devices, data centers. Now, whether this moment is the beginning of India's component manufacturing story or another well-intentioned policy that stays on paper will depend not really on the notification, but on whether the investment, the infrastructure, and the execution follows. So thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Antara. This is Point Break. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you.